Commander Ava Pierce sat in the briefing room, the hum of the data consoles around her a stark contrast to the unease coiling in her gut. The Galactic Council had called for this meeting under the pretense of discussing Earth's status within the Alliance, but Ava knew better. The Council was no friend to humanity, at least not to the kind of humanity she represented. The factions of the Council, mostly composed of ancient and proud species, had always regarded Earth's rapid rise in the galactic ranks with a mix of skepticism and disdain. To them, humans were wild cards, unpredictable, volatile, and a potential powder keg waiting to explode. Ava's personal contacts within the Federation had been warning her for weeks that something was coming, something catastrophic. The Council's rhetoric had shifted. Words like containment, regulation, and oversight had begun cropping up in their speeches more frequently. Earth's colonies on the fringe, which had been thriving and expanding rapidly, were being eyed as potential threats to galactic stability. Commander Pierce, Admiral Ethan Westbrook's voice crackled over the comms, pulling Ava from her thoughts. His face, grizzled and worn from years of military service, appeared on the screen, a look of concern in his eyes. "There's something you need to see. It's about Earth's security. I can't explain over the comms, but it's bigger than you think." Ava's pulse quickened. She had known Ethan for years, and his tone carried the weight of a man who knew something that could tear apart the fragile peace they'd fought so hard to maintain. Before she could ask him for more details, the signal cut out, leaving only a soft buzz in the room. A chill crept down her spine. Moments later, an encrypted message blinked into existence on her console, a flashing warning symbol that sent her heart into overdrive. The message was brief, cryptic, almost too simple for something so dangerous. Earth is the target. They will strike before the year ends. Trust no one. Ava's mind raced. The attack wasn't just inevitable. It was already in motion. She had no idea who they were, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the Galactic Council was involved. Her fingers hovered over the console. There was no time to waste. She needed to get to the bottom of this, and fast. With the Council convening in mere hours, she would have to act quickly if she had any hope of preventing the nightmare that was about to unfold. The encrypted message from Admiral Ethan Westbrook gnawed at Ava's mind as she raced to assemble a small strike team. She couldn't shake the feeling that the warning had come too late. The pieces were falling into place too quickly, and Earth was in greater danger than anyone realized. Ava, along with her team, Rylan Davis, an experienced tactician and former Navy officer, and Carla Delgado, a battle-hardened ex-Special Forces soldier, boarded a Federation stealth ship bound for Project Zenith, the old weapons research station that had once belonged to Earth's military during the early days of interstellar expansion. It was an outpost now abandoned, but rumors persisted that it held the key to some of the most powerful technologies humanity had ever developed. If the Krone, or anyone, were planning to use something from there against Earth, she needed to get there first. The ship cruised through the cold void of space, a mere speck against the vast expanse. As they neared the coordinates, a sinking feeling settled in Ava's chest. There was something off about the mission, something she couldn't quite identify. The silence aboard the ship was oppressive, and the air felt too still, too perfect, just before a storm. "Commander," Ryland's voice broke through the tension. He was sitting across from her, his hands steepled in thought. "You think it's the Krone behind all this?" Ava glanced over at him, noting the sharp edge to his voice. "I don't know, but if it is, we're walking straight into the lion's den. Stay alert. This place was abandoned for a reason." Carla, ever the pragmatist, nodded from the cockpit. I've been tracking anomalous readings on the long-range scanners. Whatever's here, it's active. Ava's brow furrowed. Something wasn't right. As they approached the station, a series of high-energy pulses lit up the sensor grid. The ship lurched as the station's automated defense systems activated. It wasn't supposed to have any operational defense, but somehow the station was alive. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Someone's expecting us," Carla muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. The ship veered sharply to the side as energy blasts streaked by. Before Ava could react, the most shocking thing happened. Relan stood up, his hand reaching for a hidden compartment in his jacket. He turned toward Ava, eyes dark with cold purpose. "I'm sorry, Commander," Relan said, his voice almost a whisper. "But you're on the wrong side of history." And with a swift motion, he activated a device hidden within his palm, sending a pulse through the ship's systems. The controls went dead. Ava's stomach dropped. They were betrayed. The ship went silent as Ryland's betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. Ava's pulse raced as she scrambled to react. The ship was already locked in a descent toward Project Zenith, but the automatic controls, now under Ryland's influence, were guiding them straight into the heart of the station's defense grid. "Ryland, what the hell are you doing?" Ava demanded, her voice harp with disbelief. Her mind raced as she tried to understand his sudden shift. The man she'd worked with, trusted for years, was now an enemy. Ryland's face remained unreadable, his expression hard and cold. "I'm doing what needs to be done. Humanity's ascension has gone unchecked for too long. You can't see it, Ava, but they're dangerous. The Chrome, hell, all of them know the truth. You're all blind to what comes next. This war was inevitable." Ava stepped forward, anger rising like fire in her chest. "You think the Chrome are the answer? You think they're going to save humanity by wiping us out? I can't believe you'd do this. We're fighting for Earth's survival." Ryland didn't flinch. Instead, he activated the comms and spoke to Carla in a voice that carried a cold finality. "This is your last chance to get out, Carla. You're either with us, or you're with them. I suggest you make a choice now." Carla, who had been silent until now, didn't flinch. Her eyes narrowed, a tightness in her jaw signaling that she was ready to act. "You don't get to make that decision for me," she muttered. Without warning, she unslung her rifle and aimed it directly at Raylan. "Ava, take the helm. I'll deal with him." Before Raylan could react, Carla lunged. The ship shuddered as she tackled him to the floor, knocking his device from his hand. In the chaos, Ava scrambled to override the controls. Her fingers flew over the manual command panel, but the damage had already been done. The ship was too close to the station's gravity well. They were coming in too fast, and their options were running out. "Ava!" Carla yelled. "We've got seconds before the station's defenses lock us out completely." Ava's heart raced. The station loomed large on the view screen, cold, abandoned, yet brimming with hostile intent. They had to get control back. Fast. She gritted her teeth and punched in the override code, praying it would work. The ship shuddered again, then suddenly, the systems clicked back online. "Hang on," Ava muttered. She pulled the controls into a sharp turn, narrowly avoiding the incoming barrage of energy fire from the station's guns. "We've got a long way to go before we're out of this," Carla said, breathless, as she pulled Raylan away from the console and restrained him. "But we're not dead yet." Ava nodded, her eyes narrowing. "We need to find out what the Krone are hiding here, and we need to do it fast. Raylan may have betrayed us, But this mission isn't over. Not by a long shot. She looked at the view ahead. Project Zenith was no longer just a research facility. It was the key to humanity's survival. The stakes had just been raised, and now every second counted. The air in the ship's cockpit was thick with tension as Ava steered their craft around the jagged defenses of Project Zenith. The station loomed large before them, its silent bulk betraying none of the deadly secrets hidden within. Raylan, now bound and subdued in the back of the ship, glared at them with venomous eyes. Carla kept a close watch on him, her fingers twitching near her sidearm. The betrayal had cut deep, but Ava knew they couldn't afford to dwell on it. Not yet. Not until they figured out what was truly going on. Approaching docking bay, Ava muttered, focusing on the blinking console in front of her. She was trying to ignore the fact that time was slipping away from them. The station's automatic defenses were disabled for now, but who knew how long that would last? They needed to get in, get answers, and get out fast. As they descended, the long-forgotten station came into full view. The once imposing structure now looked half dilapidated, its corridors dark and abandoned. The Federation had long since written it off as a relic of the past, but Ava had learned long ago not to trust their archives. The fact that Raylan had been sent to activate this place, of all places, was no coincidence. The Chrome were involved, and that meant whatever was inside Zenith could change the course of the entire war. A soft beep sounded from the console. They had docked. Carla wasted no time, unstrapping herself from her seat and grabbing her rifle. "I'll take point," she said curtly, checking the safety before stepping toward the hatch. Ava nodded, feeling the familiar weight of leadership settle on her shoulders. This mission was now hers, and the responsibility to see it through fell squarely on her. The airlock hissed as the outer door opened, revealing a narrow, dimly lit hallway. A thin layer of dust coated the walls, as if the station had been abandoned for centuries. Ava led the way, her boots silent on the metallic floor. She could feel her pulse in her throat, the weight of their mission pressing down on her. "Keep your eyes open," Ava whispered to her team. "If this place is as abandoned as it looks, we're still walking into a trap." As they moved deeper into the station, the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally long. The silence of the station was suffocating. But it wasn't the silence that sent a chill down Ava's spine. It was the feeling, the deep, knowing sense that they weren't alone. That something, or someone, was watching them. A low hum began to reverberate through the walls. "That's not normal," Carla muttered, hand tightening on her rifle. Ava's heart skipped. The station wasn't just abandoned, it was waking up. And whatever was powering it had just come online. The Chrome had been expecting them all along. "Move now," Ava barked. The team broke into a sprint, heading toward the central control room, where they hoped to find the answers. But as the hum grew louder, they realized that the station's awakening might not be the only thing they had to worry about. They were about to uncover the truth behind the weapon that could change everything. And that truth would alter the galaxy forever. The control room was just ahead, its doors a heavy, rusted reminder of the station's age. As Eva approached, the hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor and into her bones. She motioned for Carla to take point again, and the former Special Forces operative stepped forward, her rifle raised, eyes scanning every corner. Raylan, still bound and restrained, was left behind, under the watchful eye of their remaining crew member, tech specialist Julian Cross. Ava pushed through the thick metallic door with a silent command, heart hammering in her chest. The control room was vast, a cavernous space filled with outdated consoles and broken machinery, but at the far end of the room stood a strange, glowing interface, alive with data that shifted in complex patterns, incomprehensible to anyone unfamiliar with its architecture. The hum was louder now, almost unbearable, as if the station itself were breathing. "Julian," Ava called, her voice steady despite the unease building in her stomach. "What can you make of that?" Julian moved quickly, setting down his gear and approaching the interface. His fingers flew over the nearby terminal, his eyes darting over the screen. "It's alien," he muttered, lips curling in distaste. "But this isn't just Krone tech. This is human technology too, and it's been reprogrammed, compromised even. Whoever has been running this place wanted to keep it a secret." Ava's stomach tightened. Human technology? The thought unsettled her. Whoever had been behind this operation had been manipulating Earth's own resources, human resources. "Look at this," Julian said, gesturing to the holographic display now flickering on the screen. "It's a blueprint, a weapon, a superweapon, and it's powered by something we've never seen before. Something biological. This tech is capable of planetary-scale destruction." Ava felt her breath catch in her throat. Biological. That wasn't just a weapon. It was a threat that could destabilize the entire galaxy. Her worst fears were coming to fruition. A sudden burst of static crackled through the room as an emergency alert blared across the system. Red lights flashed, signaling an incoming attack. Eva spun around, her pulse quickening. We're not alone. The hum that had been steadily growing now escalated into a deafening roar. The walls vibrated as a massive surge of energy coursed through the station. The control room doors slammed shut with a metallic thud, locking them inside. Carla cursed under her breath. We've been compromised. Ava's mind raced. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Their mission wasn't just to uncover secrets. It was to stop a galaxy-shattering weapon from being activated. But now it was clear. The Krone weren't the only ones playing this game. "Julian, how long until we can shut it down?" Ava demanded. "I'm not sure," he replied, his voice tight with tension. "The entire system's been rerouted through a secondary core. I need time to hack it." Ava's eyes flicked to the locked doors. They had no time. The clock was ticking. "We don't have time," she muttered. "We need to hold this position and fight our way out if we have to." Outside, the station began to tremble, and Eva could hear the unmistakable sound of ships entering the atmosphere. The Krone were coming. And they weren't coming to negotiate. "They'll wipe us out if they have to," Carla said grimly. "We need to fight now." Ava nodded, resolve hardening in her chest. "Then let's give them something to remember." The spark of rebellion had already ignited across the galaxy, and the fire was spreading fast. But now, on the brink of disaster, Ava Pierce knew that humanity's true test was just beginning. If they could survive this, they could survive anything. The room was a cacophony of flashing red lights, alarms blaring, and the hum of machinery coming to life with an intensity that rattled Ava's bones. The walls around them seemed to pulse with an ominous energy as the central system kicked into overdrive. Julian was at the console, his fingers flying over the controls, as if his life depended on it. Because, quite frankly, it did. The station had turned against them, but it wasn't just a malfunction. This was purposeful. The Krone were close, and whatever secret they'd been hiding was about to be revealed. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before this place is a smoking crater," Carla said, glancing over her shoulder toward the door, where faint footsteps echoed, too rhythmic to be a coincidence. They were coming. "Focus on the system," Ava said, her voice clipped with urgency. She couldn't afford to let fear cloud her mind. Not now. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Julian cursed under his breath, his face lit by the glow of the terminal. It's not just a weapon, it's an entire program. Whoever designed this, they've been building it for centuries. I'm seeing designs from the early human colonial days, stuff we thought was lost to history. And the Crone, they've been running it in the background, using Earth's own tech against us. Ava's heart skipped. What do you mean, using our own tech? Julian didn't look up, but his voice was tight. This super weapon, it's not just an energy weapon or a bomb. It's biological in nature. The Crone reprogrammed Earth's old terraforming systems to turn them into a hybrid bioweapon. They've been using them to siphon resources from Earth's colonies and destabilize human populations across the galaxy. That's why the Crone are afraid of us. They saw the potential of our species to grow too quickly, to evolve too rapidly. They've been trying to stifle us before we could even realize our own power. Ava staggered back as if she'd been punched in the gut. Biological warfare, it was almost incomprehensible. The Crone hadn't just been watching humanity. They'd been sabotaging them from the start. Earth's rapid rise in the galaxy wasn't just a threat. It was the result of their interference. The weapon they had stumbled upon wasn't just meant to cripple Earth. It was designed to keep humanity from ever reaching its full potential. Before she could process this new reality, the door behind them exploded open. Several Crone soldiers, their skeletal bodies cloaked in shimmering armor, stormed in, weapons raised. "Time's up," Carla muttered, raising her rifle. Ava barely had time to react before the first blast rang out. But now she was no longer just fighting for survival. She was fighting for the future of humanity. Julian slammed his hand on the terminal. "The system's done. I've set the self-destruct." Ava's eyes widened. "You did what?" "The whole station is rigged to blow. Get ready." With no other option, Ava drew her sidearm and prepared for the fight of her life. They weren't just facing the Crone anymore. They were facing the full force of the galaxy's oldest fears and prejudices. But they weren't backing down. Not this time. The truth had finally come to light. And now the spark of rebellion would spread across the galaxy. The air was thick with smoke as the first shots from the Crone soldiers tore through the air. Ava ducked behind the console, her pulse racing, every nerve in her body primed for action. Carla was already moving, fluid and precise, as she returned fire. The Crone soldiers' energy shields flickered under the barrage, but they were still coming, an unstoppable force of ancient warriors who had seen entire civilizations fall. Ava's mind raced as she calculated their options. They had minutes, maybe less, before the self-destruct initiated, and the station's proximity to the planet meant they wouldn't survive the blast. They needed to disable the Crone, hold them off long enough to make a clean escape. "Julian!" Ava shouted over the chaos, barely audible above the sounds of blaster fire. "You're sure the self-destruct is active?" Julian, hunched over his terminal, didn't look up. "It's set. 30 minutes to detonation, but we're not getting out of here without a fight. The Crone will make sure of that." Carla took another shot, felling one of the Crone soldiers in a spray of sparks. "We'll make them pay for it," she said grimly. "But we need to move. This place is coming apart at the seams." The station was shaking now, the ground beneath them trembling as if it too had realized its fate. The hum from the core had escalated into a deafening roar, the energy field enveloping the station in a violent pulse. Whatever the Crone had planned, it was reaching its final phase. Ava's mind sharpened. They needed to take control of the Crone's main access point, the station's central hub. If they could disable the Crone's systems, They might have a chance to reverse the course of the self-destruct, or at the very least, force them to abort the attack. But it was a long shot. Carla's voice cut through her thoughts. The door to the central hub is locked down, but I can blow it. I'll need cover. I'll take point, Ava said, already moving. The weight of her weapon in her hand felt oddly reassuring. Watch your six, Carla said, locking eyes with her before sprinting toward the far end of the room, where the Krone soldiers were regrouping. Ava moved swiftly, her focus narrowing to the task ahead. Every step felt heavier, as though the station itself were pushing back, unwilling to let them leave. The door to the central hub loomed ahead, sealed by the last line of defense. The Krone soldiers had them pinned in, and Ava knew it was a matter of time before they were overwhelmed. A blast of energy singed the wall beside her, and Ava turned just in time to see Carla throw herself into the line of fire, laying down suppressive fire. The Krone soldiers scattered, temporarily disoriented. This was their chance. Now, Carla, Ava shouted. With a swift motion, Carla deployed a small explosive device on the door's control panel. The explosion rang out with a deafening crack, and the door blew open, revealing the central hub, a vast, cavernous space filled with terminals, glowing with alien energy. As they stormed in, Ava knew that this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about taking the fight to the Krone, and showing them that humanity wasn't a species to be controlled or extinguished. They had started a war. Now, they would finish it. Time was running out. The clock was ticking down to the station's detonation, and the battle was far from over. But Ava Pierce wasn't about to let it end here. Not when humanity's future hung in the balance. The air in the central hub was thick with tension as the explosive charges went off. The blast sent shards of metal and sparks flying, but Carla was already moving, her boots pounding the cold metal floor toward the central control system. Ava followed closely behind, her weapon trained on the scattered Krone soldiers who were slowly regrouping. The room was a maze of consoles, holographic screens, and flashing alarms, all pulsing with the same frantic energy that mirrored Ava's racing heart. Ava scanned the area. The Krone soldiers had fallen back behind cover, but they weren't giving up. They were preparing for one last push, desperate, relentless. But Ava knew they couldn't win this fight if they didn't take the central control point first. Carla, can you disable their systems? Ava shouted over the sound of blaster fire. Carla was already setting up her equipment, plugging into the main console with practiced speed. Trying, Carla grunted, sweat beading on her forehead. These bastards didn't make it easy, but if I can get in, I'll lock them out. Ava nodded and moved toward the far side of the room, keeping low, using the scattered debris for cover. The Krone's energy shields flared as they took shots at her, but she was too fast, too focused. Every shot she fired took down one of them, but the countdown to the station's destruction continued relentlessly in her mind. Julian, Ava called through her comms. Can you confirm the self-destruct? How much time do we have? There was a brief pause before Julian's strained voice came through, shaky but determined. 15 minutes. The system's locked, but if Carla can access the core, we can force it to abort. Eva's breath caught. They still had a chance. If they could stop the self-destruct and cut off the Krone's control, they could make it out alive, humans, and the galaxy's future intact. Almost there, Carla said, her voice tight with concentration as her fingers danced over the terminal. I'm in. Now we. Before she could finish, the room trembled, the walls groaning as the Krone soldiers made their final stand. But just as Ava was about to move again, the entire station shuddered with an enormous blast, not from the crone, but from deep within the station's core. "What the hell?" Ava muttered, her eyes wide. The lights flickered as the station groaned again, but this time it wasn't from the self-destruct countdown. The terminal in front of Carla lit up with a strange symbol, one neither of them recognized. The hum had returned, but it was different now, less chaotic, more deliberate. The bioweapon was still active, but it was no longer under crone control. Ava stared at the screen, and then she understood. The crone hadn't just been trying to stop humanity, they'd been trying to control it. But in doing so, they had unlocked something far more dangerous, an ancient bioweapon that could evolve, something humanity had created and then forgotten, something alive. "Get back!" Carla yelled, scrambling away from the terminal. "It's adapting. We can't stop it if we don't." Before Carla could finish, the glowing interface flickered out. The entire room was plunged into darkness. Then, from the depths of the station, a soft, almost human whisper echoed. "The future begins now." Ava froze. For the first time in her life, she understood the true depth of humanity's potential and the price of it. Earth's legacy wasn't just about colonizing the stars. It was about becoming something greater. The galaxy would never be the same. And neither would humanity. The self-destruct countdown had stopped. The crone were no longer the threat. But something new had been awakened, and this time humanity was ready to face it.